Hello everyone, welcome to Deep Sight. Let us take you on a journey through time and space to explore the profound connotations of ancient civilizations. In the past few issues, we have introduced several Germanic tribes that directly clashed with the Roman Empire in the early days of the Great Migration of Nations, and the stories of the countries they established, including the Visigoths, the Ostrogoths, and the Vandal Kingdom. The entire medieval history of Europe is the history of the rise of the Germanic people and Christian civilization. An interesting phenomenon is that the later the tribes migrated, the stronger they were. The major European countries we see today are basically established by Germanic tribes that moved towards civilization in the post-Roman era. They include the famous Lombards, the Franks, and the later Nordic Vikings. Today, we will introduce the legendary Lombards to you. If you have been to Italy, you will definitely be amazed by its beautiful architecture, delicious food, natural scenery, and the unrestrained character of its people. After walking through Europe, I am afraid that except for France, few countries can match its charm. The most magnificent area in Italy is located in the northern Italian region of the Alps and the Po River. It borders other Italian regions, Piedmont, Emilia-Romagna, Veneto, Trentino Alto Adige, and Switzerland. Its capital is Milan, the world's most fashionable city. Its name is Lombardy. Lombardy is one of the locomotives of the global economy, with a GDP of about 400 billion euros. Lombardy is one of the 3 richest regions in Europe, with a GDP per capita 30% higher than other regions in Italy. According to the latest data from Eurostat, Lombardy is the second highest GDP region in Europe, second only to the Isle de France, where the French capital Paris is located. 1/6 of the entire Italian population lives in Lombardy, and the 231-meter-high Unicredit Bank is the tallest skyscraper in Italy. Lombardy also has the largest number of high-rise buildings in Italy. The 12 provinces of Lombardy are further divided into a total of 1,506 towns. The style here is very different from the ancient Roman style in the south. The Milan Cathedral, the Vatican in Rome, and the Florence Cathedral are completely different from European styles. The early ancient Roman and later Germanic characteristics are vividly reflected. Lombardy is also the base camp of the right-wing Forza Italia in the Northern League led by Berlusconi, the leader of Italian politics today. Everyone must be familiar with the famous football team AC Milan. From all aspects, those who have traveled to Italy will find that although the area of Italy is not large, the north and south of Italy are very different, embracing various different cultural structures in Europe. The northern part of Italy where Milan is located is actually closer to the characteristics of the northern European people. They are relatively tall, and their personalities and work styles are more like Switzerland, Germany, France, and other countries. The name of Lombardy comes from the Lombards who rose around 570 AD. The Lombards have a very long history. Like the Goths and Vandals, they are also a branch of the Germanic tribes, that is, barbarians in the eyes of the Romans. They originated in Scandinavia. The earliest Lombards discovered and recorded in archaeology can be traced back to the 1st century AD, when they lived in the Saxony region in the northwest of Germania. In Germania, by the ancient Roman historian Tacitus, there are records of the Lombards living in the lower reaches of the Elbe River at that time. Lombard is a Germanic language similar to Anglo-Saxon, but they did not have their own writing in the early tribal stage. Among the Germanic tribes that gradually became powerful in the post-Roman era, the nobles of the Franks, Bavarians, and Lombards had very close relations for many centuries. The name Lombardy was used throughout northern Italy until the 15th century AD. In Dante's great work, Divine Comedy, the parents of the famous guide Virgil were from Lombardy. In the late 5th century AD, more than 100 years after the Goths and Vandals fled the slaughter of the Huns, the Lombards began to migrate southward and reached the north bank of the Danube, roughly equivalent to the current Austrian region. By this time, the Goths had destroyed the Western Roman Empire and became the rulers of a new generation of civilized countries. In the early 6th century, they further migrated to Pannonia, which is today's Western Hungary and Slovakia. In 546, they established a new dynasty. The late migration of the Lombards is a question that is still under study. Archaeologists have analyzed the migration patterns of the Lombards in 2 archaeological cemeteries from the 6th to 7th centuries in Pannonia and Italy, which should be consistent with the records in the literature, but there are still many questions about the social situation and behavior patterns of the Lombards. The Solad Cemetery in Hungary and the Collegno Cemetery in Italy have been confirmed to be related to the Lombards. Johannes of the Max Planck Institute for Human History in Germany Krauss and his colleagues conducted detailed sequencing and analysis of ancient genomic DNA from 63 individuals excavated from the two ancient tombs. The results showed that both cemeteries were dominated by Central and Northern European Germanic ancestry, and also showed that families on both sides had genetic exchanges with individuals with Southern ancestry. These findings are consistent with the previous view that the Lombards had migrated long distances from Pannonia to northern Italy. Therefore, the influence of the Huns may also exist in the migration history of the Lombards, but the specific details still need further study. In 565 AD, Alboin succeeded his father Odoin as Alboin became the leader of the Lombards, a Germanic barbarian tribe living between the Danube and the Adriatic Sea. In 568 AD, with the help of the Avars, a powerful nomadic people from Asia, Alboin led his tribe to defeat another Germanic tribe, the Gepids. Alboin not only killed the leader of the Gepids, Canmund, but also made a drinking cup with the latter's skull. He also forced Canmund's daughter Rosamund to become his spouse. Having completed the great cause of tribal unification, Alboin immediately began his road of external conquest. He led tens of thousands of Lombards and Saxons across the Alps to Italy. Alboin moved to Italy and captured Milan in 569 AD, and then conquered Pavia after 3 years of hard fighting. Alboin eventually used this as a base to further conquer the southern part of Italy and establish the Lombard Kingdom in the Po River Valley, with its capital in Pavia. Unfortunately, the conqueror Alboin did not enjoy the glory he established for too long. According to the records of the 8th century chronicles, not long after he established his achievements, his queen Rosamund murdered him in order to avenge the humiliation suffered by her father and herself. Alboin's several attempts to establish a hereditary dynasty during his lifetime all failed. The war ended in failure, so the king of the Lombard Kingdom was traditionally elected by the highest-ranking nobles and local dukes. After Alboin's death, Clive became the king of Lombardy, who had no blood relationship with Alboin. He expanded the rule of the Lombard Kingdom to the whole of northern Italy, conquering the beautiful Tuscany region as far as Ravenna. However, after 18 months in power, he was unfortunately assassinated by a slave guard he had abused. After his death, the Lombard Kingdom was unable to reach a consensus due to the strong nobles, and the throne of the king experienced a full 10-year vacancy, known as the Rule of the Dukes, because its supreme ruler was the regional duke. Finally, Clive's son Othari became the new king in 585. Lombardy's rule was not centralized. Its kingdom was divided into a varying number of duchies, ruled by dukes in a semi-autonomous manner, and these duchies were further divided into city-level territories. The Lombard Kingdom strengthened foreign trade and actively expanded, reaching central Italy and establishing two independent principalities of Spoleto and Benevento. The Lombards were able to capture the Italian regions occupied by the Eastern Roman Empire mainly because of the combination of several key factors. First, after Justinian the Great's Western expedition, although Italy returned to the rule of the Eastern Roman Empire, the subsequent plague severely weakened the strength of the Eastern Roman Empire. After the death of Justinian the Great, the Lombards seized the opportunity and captured most of Italy. Second, the Lombard invasion of Italy was resisted by the Byzantine Empire, but the Byzantine Empire maintained control over most of the Italian peninsula until the mid-8th century. The establishment of the Lombard Kingdom, especially in its capital Pavia, marked the political and military superiority of the Lombards. Third, the Byzantine Empire's rule in Italy was challenged in many ways, including conflicts with the Lombards, contradictions with the local residents of the ruled areas, internal political instability, and economic problems. These problems gradually weakened the control of the Byzantine Empire in Italy. Finally, there is the geographical and cultural division. The southern and northern principalities of the Lombard Kingdom were geographically separated by the existence of the Byzantine-ruled Ravenna Governorate and the Duchy of Rome. This separation made the southern principalities of the Lombard Kingdom more autonomous than the smaller northern principalities, further weakening the unified control of the Byzantine Empire. Therefore, The Lombards were able to capture the Italian regions occupied by the Eastern Roman Empire due to the weakening of the Eastern Roman Empire and the political and military advantages of the Lombards themselves. The Lombards' rule in Italy began in 568 and lasted until 774. During this period, they developed a unique culture. Lombard architecture combines the styles of ancient Rome, Christianity, Byzantium, and Nordic Germanic, marking the transition of Europe from ancient times to the Middle Ages. In the 7th century, Lothar, reigned 636 to 652, presided over the compilation of the first written law of the Lombard Kingdom, the Lombard Code, also known as the Lothar Code. So how did the newly rising Lombard Kingdom fall into decline so quickly? When talking about the fate of the Lombards, we have to talk about the Franks. The Franks, or Frank in English, were a branch of the Germanic people who invaded the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century. They originally lived near the Lower Rhine and were a Germanic people on the northern border of the late Roman Empire. The Franks successfully expanded their power and influence in the Middle Ages, especially among the population in or near France. Their expansion began with the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, and the Frankish dynasty first became the ruler of the entire area between the Loire and Rhine rivers, and then conquered many other small post-Roman principalities within and outside the old empire. The history of the Franks can be traced back to the middle of the 3rd century, when they began to cross the Rhine, invade the Roman Empire, and immigrate to its territory. They gradually occupied the Gaul region north of the Loire River. The Franks lived in tribal alliances, and they were scattered internally, independent of each other, and had their own leaders. They did not have the conditions to become a unified kingdom, and the Gaul region was still under Roman rule. The Franks, the main ethnic group of the Frankish kingdom, originated within the territory of modern Belgium. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the Frankish kingdom took over and became the most powerful country in Central and Western Europe in the following 300 years, reaching its peak during the reign of Charlemagne. In the process of conquering the territory of the old Western Roman Empire, the kingdom gained a large population from Germania and gradually evolved into a multi-ethnic country with Germans as the main body and including Gauls, Lombards, Flemish, and Burgundians. With the rise of the Frankish kingdom, the inevitable conflict began between the most powerful Lombards and Franks around. This was directly due to the political and religious competition and opposition between the Lombard Kingdom and the Frankish Kingdom as two powerful Germanic kingdoms in the early Middle Ages. The Lombards were originally Arians, which were pagans in the eyes of Orthodox Catholics, which put them at odds with the Romans, Byzantines, and the Pope. Although the Lombards had completed their conversion to Catholicism by the end of the 7th century, their conflict with the Pope continued. These conflicts led to the kingdom being gradually eroded by the Franks with the support of the Catholic Church. Desiderius, born in 720 AD and died in 786 AD, was the last king of the Lombard Kingdom. He ruled from 756 to 774. The later Frankish king Charlemagne married the daughter of Desiderius. In the 8th century, the Lombard Kingdom gradually conquered the Italian region that was still under the rule of the Eastern Roman Empire. When they further invaded the jurisdiction of the Pope of Rome, Pope Stephen II had to ask for help from the Frankish king Pepin III. In 756, Pippin sent troops to defeat the Lombards. Pippin presented the recaptured territory to the Pope and established the Papal States, which is known in history as the Donation of Pepin. In 773 AD, Charlemagne, son of Pepin III, besieged the Lombard capital of Ticinum, today's Pavia, and captured the Lombard king Desiderius. Charlemagne served as both the Frank and Lombard kings, and in 774 AD the kingdom was completely conquered by the Franks. The Lombard rule over Italy ended. Under Charlemagne, the Franks adopted the title of King of Lombards, although he never controlled the Duchy of Benevento in the southernmost part of Lombardy. When the Lombard kingdom was close to extinction, it was the last Germanic barbarian kingdom in Europe besides the Franks. The conflict between the Franks and the Lombards was not just a war between two Germanic tribes, but also involved a complex relationship at multiple levels such as religion, politics, and culture. These conflicts and competitions shaped the political landscape of early medieval Europe to a certain extent. Although the Lombards had lost their independent kingdom, they left behind many traditions and achievements, especially in art, language, and law. Today, The legacy of the Lombards is still reflected in the Lombardy region in northern Italy and some cultural sites. These sites bear witness to the important role played by Lombardy in the development of Christian spirit and culture in medieval Europe, especially the role it played in promoting the monastic movement. The history of the Lombards is not only the history of the Germanic people, but also an important part of the history of Europe as a whole. Dear audience friends, in a short period of time, we have moved forward with the wheel of history and walked side by side through those moments where history stayed. It made us experience what it is to be truly calm and become more upright and strong. Compared with any waves in history, what we are experiencing today is just like a small dust falling into the Milky Way. Has our world today become more civilized because of the changes of time? How far is peace from us? It is the sincere hope of every kind person. This is the content of our historical revelation in this issue. Regarding the subsequent fate of the Italian Peninsula, we will introduce you to another rising Germanic barbarian country, the Frankish Kingdom, in the next issue. Thank you for watching and accompanying me. I am your time travel navigator, Stardust. By learning from people, we can understand gains and losses. By learning from history, we can understand the rise and fall of nations. Let us understand the distant past and foresee a bright future. See you next time.